Dale L. Roberts. Welcome to the ROI Online Podcast.
I am beyond ecstatic. Thank you so much for having me on.
So, Dale, we need to set up why people need to be interested in this conversation that we're going to have. Here's interesting that you don't come across as a bodybuilder. You don't have the cap on backwards. You don't have the tattoos. You got the tight t-shirt, right? But you're not this typical meathead image. You know, you don't have the shake bottle there with your protein stuff, but water, or is that vodka?
It's vodka. I have to get lit up for my podcast interviews.
Yeah, he's got to get lit so we can pull out all his wit. But so here's the cool thing is that you wrote a bunch of books. You self-published a bunch of books on fitness, and we have a lot of authors that listen to this podcast. Now, I didn't know. The only people I knew that ever wrote books on fitness are maybe Frank Colombo or Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And they go on to be movie stars. And in a way, you've kind of gone on to do some of the other things. Now, I didn't know this at first. Actually, I learned about you via Kindle Direct publishing videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
When I had to publish my book, I had to get in there, and it's this ecosystem that's real confusing. It's this dark forest with all these scary monsters.
It is.
And most every author worth their weight has to go into that forest and try to get their book put up there. And so what did I do? I went on YouTube, started to do education, and that's when I ran into Dale L. Roberts. And he's the guy you need to know, all you authors out there, all you ones that are considering self-publishing. You need to know Dale because he knows his stuff. Dale, tell us about, so you started doing these books. Well, something happened, you decided, I'm going to start writing these books. But when you got into KDP, what made you really dig in and figure out every aspect of that ecosystem?
It was a sense of desperation at some point. It's so true. It was a matter of necessity. When I left my day job back in 2014, I left it with the thought of, okay, my very first paycheck I got from just one print book in 1 month was a little over $21 and some odd cents. And I thought, if I can focus on this full time, what could I be able to get out of it? So I burned the boats. I just said, we're doing this. And I put in my month notice at my job. And the thing was, I thought that I could just rinse and repeat, do the same thing time and again. But for the first year, I just spun my wheels. I burned through my 401k that I had. I burned through all my savings. I started dipping into credit cards. It started getting really bad. Going over to ramen noodles and frozen vegetables. And I could sense there was even this tension between my wife and I because of finances becoming so tight. And I started to have to consider, okay, either this has got to work or I've got to go back to my day job. And I just felt like there's pride. And even right now, there would be pride in me having to go back to a job because it's like, well, I left that because I said I was going to succeed at this. And thankfully, I'm not in the position I was before. But, I had to learn it. So in the first year, I think it was right about July 2015, my wife and I bought round-trip plane tickets from Arizona, where we lived at the time, to Chicago to meet up with my mentor. And we sat down with him for about a day or two, and he was able to get it to where he focused me better. Because you're probably like me, and anybody else that's on here, you're probably like me. If you're a creative entrepreneur, you're like a fire hose. But the problem is with the fire hose is when it's firing off and no one's holding it, it's going to be flailing in the wind and just spraying every which way and no direction whatsoever. So getting him in my corner and investing in his services, he was able to harness the power of me as a fire hose, point me to the direction that I needed to go in. And then that's when I started getting some traction. And it took 6 months to the day that I saw it finally just tipped. It was just January of 2016, things took off.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was just like, it was almost like it clicked, because I was putting in all this work. And I remember even like a couple times I questioned him. I was like, am I doing the right thing? Am I really doing, like, he's like, just listen to me, do everything I'm telling you, and you're going to be fine. And he was right. I think I probably literally cried from joy, because I think it was January 2nd or January 3rd. And, you know, obviously you and I can both agree it was timing, because fitness books, New Year's resolutions, just getting it to where my books were discoverable at the right place at the right time was enough to trip the Amazon algorithm and get it to where it was served to a mass audience. And you and I can both agree, you got the likes of big name fitness stars like Arnold, like a Frank Colombo, like a Michael Matthews, who is even another big indie author in the space. It can be very intimidating. And to my detriment and to my benefit, I was like, you know what? I'm not them, but I'm going to prove that I can run with them. And I did.
So this is interesting to me, because if you'd gone to your mentor 6 months earlier, you hadn't done, literally, you hadn't done all the reps, to use a fitness metaphor, right? You hadn't really done all the reps, and so it wouldn't have sunk in, and you still would have been flailing a little bit. So that first 6 months of just serving up ugly, messy, I'm talking about me right now, but that your first...
it sounded like you were describing me to a T.
But it's like, you have to be okay. It's like the first time I finally convinced myself to start working out again. And you know what the biggest barrier of that was? Seeing myself bent over, gasping for air, and having realized I'd let myself go so bad. That was a big emotional barrier I had to get over until I got past that self-flagellation or flogging myself, and just going, get over it, Steve. Just focus on the reps. This mentor, what was the magic dust that he had? Did you already have like 90% of it, and you just needed that last 10%?
That was it. It was essentially like, I had the creativity. He just had to tell me, that's good, that's not good. He was able to sort out the best practices that I was doing and the things that I needed to stop doing. Mm-hmm. He looked and he paid attention to the things that were actively moving the needle. Because see, here's the problem is, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to be a fitness author, but I'm also going to do a pen name with humor and satire. And I'm also going to have some ghost written books from somebody and put it out. And he's like, no, stop. He's like, stop. You did this one fitness book. It's called the 90-Day Home Workout Plan. I'm going to get you to focus on this, and you're going to build everything around this flagship book and get all roads leading to that book, because it's phenomenal. Why would you go away from this? Mm-hmm. And anytime that I would veer off, I go, hey, what do you think about this? He'd be like, no, it's not part of the plan. You got to get focused. So yeah, wasn't necessarily magic pixie dust. It was a case of just getting me focused and knowing what my goal was, what my purpose was, and getting it to where I wouldn't get distracted. That was the problem. And this is something I have to always remind myself on a regular basis. Stinking ADHD just gets me all over the place. Is the man who chases 2 rabbits gets none. And he got it to where I just chased after 1 rabbit until I got that rabbit. And then he said, okay, we're going to do that again and again and again. And it was just like, oh, and it made sense. So anytime I find my business isn't moving upward, it's hit a plateau, I go back to the advice that he gave me originally, which was just focus on the things that move the needle, double down on that, and rinse and repeat. And he's right every single time. And the nice thing is I don't pay him anymore. Sorry, Jason, you're not getting any of my royalties.
So Jason didn't give you a silver bullet. He gave you a system to follow, or a plan where it was more of a really nice, organized fitness program that included sleep, included, eating right, drinking enough fluids, not just doing curls, right?
Right, exactly. It had to be very specific, especially if I wanted to get any measure of success. And my measure of success was at that time to break $1,000 to $3,000 per month in earnings.
Hmm.
And when that happened, I'm telling you, I was just elated. I even get goosebumps just thinking about it right now, which is crazy because, you get so far out, you'd think it wouldn't be as emotionally
Yeah.
attached, but it was. And yeah, he got it to where it's like, follow my plan. So the best way to put it was having that mentor was like having my own personal trainer for my business.
Wow. What's fascinating to me is that you've mastered two very complicated ecosystems: the Kindle Direct Publishing, number one, the Amazon system, and bigger, but then the YouTube system as well. And both of these systems, I was talking to someone else the other day, they offer a way to get your products to people, but they hide who those people are. And therefore, you need to also bake into another little system that leads them to your own platform.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to realize that? And then how long did it take you, like, all right, I'm solid over here in KDP, and that's what I'm going to be my message. And now I'm going to move into YouTube, right? That was a long march, was it not?
It was. Okay. So this is one of those instances where actually I didn't listen to my mentor. I didn't listen to him. I ended up getting my first real bestsellers. And the thing is anybody that listens to this, anyone can get an Amazon bestseller tag. Anyone. If you don't believe me, like I even have in my background here, anybody's listening can't be able to see it. My brother wrote a book. We got it to bestseller on Amazon within 12 hours. It was that stinking simple. I actually have a full video on it. But for what I did for Amazon bestseller, we're talking in the top like 3,000 books in the overall store. What I ended up doing was breaking into a very competitive niche of health and fitness.
Yeah.
And it took some time. I got interviews because of it. And naturally, because of those interviews, people are like, how did you do it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the problem is I started getting inundated with a lot of emails and direct messages wanting to, learn this. And me, I'm just kind of like, okay, I need to capture everything I'm doing right now, this momentum, and keep running with it. I don't have time to answer people, but I'm the type of guy that I don't like to tell people no. That's one of my worst suits is like, some people are just like, hey, can you help me? I'm like, yes. And I'm like, inward, I'm like, I don't have the time for that.
Right.
So my means to an end was, let me just shoot some videos and then I'll send people over there.
Mm-hmm.
Easy peasy, right? My mentor was like, that's not a good idea, man. I'm telling you, because he had a successful YouTube channel at that time. And he's like, it's going to take up a lot more of your time. Believe me on this. And I'm like, nah, I got it. It's no problem. And the next thing I know, hook, line, and sinker, I became so hooked with doing YouTube videos and helping people out that within a year, I kind of did another one of those instances, like what I did with self-publishing books, where I was like, okay, I'm going to make this work while I maintain my business.
Mm-hmm.
That was my thought. So here I am chasing after two rabbits.
Mm.
Little did I know that I become so hooked and so deeply entrenched within that first year. Didn't really need to have a mentor per se because, he helped me out. He was doing YouTube already. And I started reaching within the YouTube community and I started to see a parallel between how you work with search engine algorithms over on Amazon and through YouTube/Google. When I saw that parallel, it was almost like that mathematical formula just pops up in my head. And I'm like, oh, so this is how you research Amazon keywords and you pretty much do the same on YouTube and Google. And so this is how you build relevance on Amazon. You do the same thing over on YouTube. And then that's when the momentum started just picking up. And it's funny. I just look back now, and this is nothing huge. A lot of people look at this and they're like, man, that's pretty big. It's nothing huge to brag about, but it's huge to me, especially for such a small niche that I look back mid-July, 2 years ago, I'd hit 5,000 subscribers and I was really happy about it. And I looked at that and I was like, that's crazy. 30,000 subscribers later, here we are, over 35,000 subscribers. The thing is though, I Just honestly, this is where, for some reason or another, I loved YouTube so much that all of a sudden the self-publishing aspect of things started taking a back seat,
Hmm.
because I started seeing even more results as a video content creator. So I kind of just let my fitness brand die a slow and horrible death. And I
Mm.
can talk to you about, pretty much what I'm doing with that fitness brand right now. We can get into another conversation if that's the case. But either way, um, everything I did on YouTube ended up eclipsing everything I did as a fitness author. And, I'm okay with that, because I think to a certain point, I started feeling burnout. I started
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, I published well over 40 different fitness books,
Wow.
40 health and fitness books.
Yeah.
You just kind of get tired of telling people how to do push-ups and pull-ups. And after a bit, you just kind of like, okay, I've got enough content there. Do I really need to do another one? Like, okay, maybe I can go do something about keto diets or vegan diets and working out. But I'm like, that's just not my thing. And I was like, but I really love this aspect of having people fulfill what's in their hearts.
Yeah.
That I always hear this, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. That's music to my ears. It's like blood in the water to a shark. I'm like, really? Let's talk.
Well, I think that you're illustrating a certain point that happens in a leader's life is they first kind of figure out hey, I'm good at this, and they work really hard and they get good at that, but then they reach this little plateau where this thing goes through their head and they go, should I kind of attempt another ascent on something I'm not so good at? Do I have the confidence and the self-identity to let myself fail on a new thing when I've been hitting some home runs on this older thing? And that's what you were going through. And what it illustrates is when you open yourself up to that, you level up, or you move up to help more people that are needing other things. So you're not necessarily letting your fitness brand die. That fitness brand helped you recognize you had all of this other thing to offer other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly couldn't say it any better. It served as a stepping stone, and it continues to positively impact people's lives. I'm still getting some sales.
Mm-hmm.
I decided though, I'm doing the major pivot. It's been 4 years since I launched my last fitness book, and I've been kind of just hoeing and humming, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get to it. And mind you, I've been publishing other books because I function as a small publishing house, and I'm able to get ghostwritten brands that I'm able to put out and such. But it has been 4 years since the last Dale L. Roberts book, which was a fitness book. And I thought, okay, I've got this audience here on YouTube and this following for self-publishing. It's high time I go ahead and make the major pivot from talking about fitness over to self-publishing. And right now, as you and I speak, I'm getting it formatted through two different companies, Coda B and Archangel Inc. They're not paying me to say this, by the way. They're getting the content fully formatted and ready to go. And my brain goes, but Dale, your audience is going to start to see all of your stuff. They're going to go pay attention to all of what you've been doing. So naturally, over the past 2 weeks, I've been working overtime and going back through and updating all of my old fitness books, getting brand new covers, getting new keywords, getting new ad copy, getting it to where everything is congruent. Because that was one of the things that it was real. You could see almost this growth of my brand to where I had some really terrible covers to good covers, good covers, good covers. And then at some point or another, I was like, I'm going to do my own covers, and it started diving just a little bit. But, the nice thing is I went through, I updated all of the covers, everything's starting to look congruent. So that way, when a follower of mine on YouTube or my podcast says, well, let's see what Dale's doing, because whatever he's doing, I'm obviously going to follow his lead.
Right.
I want to be the person who's practicing what he preaches. So I had to go back through and fix a lot of the fitness stuff. And the nice thing is as I've gone through and fixed it, slowly I'm starting to see the fitness books rise again, which is kind of cool.
So here's a trap. I think you really encourage some content creators on YouTube. So when I set up my YouTube channel, I started putting these videos that we're recording right now over there. So I'm producing content on a regular basis. I'm putting them over there, and then we're chopping up little snippets. We'll have golden nuggets, a short version of these. But But if you go over and look on the monetization tab, it says no monetization until you have 1,000 followers and 4,000 hours of watch time. So I think the trap becomes at the very first, it makes sense why they do that. They want you to do the long game, but most content creators just do click to like, hit the bell to subscribe, and share. But they miss the bigger part of the system, which is how to bring them over onto your platform and identify who they are, because they're trying to hit that first metric. What are your thoughts about that?
If you're building a presence on YouTube, a lot of the things that you've mentioned, engagement is definitely key, but I'm going to tell you what is absolutely paramount on YouTube today is watch time. Watch time is king, K-I-N-G, not K-E-Y. Watch time is king. It doesn't matter if they're subscribed. It doesn't matter if they hit the like. It doesn't matter if they hit the comment. It doesn't matter if they share. It doesn't matter what they do, because if they're not watching for prolonged periods of time, YouTube just doesn't care. What they want is to have it to where you're bringing people to their platform and consuming and binging content. And I think that's where I've won big, is that I've been doing this for the past 4.5 years. I've made binge-worthy content. I have, I think, 475 videos now. And the crazy thing is, about a year or two ago, I got a wild hair up my rear end, and I was like, I'm gonna pull 300 videos down. I don't like anymore. I'm kicking myself over that, because I could have just simply had left those up. They were very cringy, but nonetheless, I should have left that up, because it would give, first of all, when you develop as a business owner, anybody's listening to this or watching this, you as a business owner, when you develop an asset, okay, that is a window or a door to your brand and your platform. So you can see what I ended up doing was I shot myself in the foot. I didn't like that video. It was very cringy. My delivery was off. The information was fine. That was the crazy thing, but I decided to pull it out. So I literally just pulled all these doors and windows off of my brand.
Yeah.
So with what I have now, thankfully, I haven't pulled anything off lately. About 475 doors and windows opened into my brand and highly discoverable. And here's the nice thing is I've learned the game of getting people to watch longer and watch more. So that way YouTube goes, okay, we're going to recommend and suggest some of his content. And this is one of the things I'm very proud of, is the fact that when someone watches one of my videos, guess what comes up and suggested? More of my videos.
Wow.
I think sometimes what some of the people do when they go onto YouTube is they do a great job of bringing people over to watch their video. Hey, mom, come check out my latest video. It's how I groom my cat. And people go and watch it. But the problem is they're like, I don't understand. I put out this cat grooming video. My mom and my family watched it. It got over 300 views, but I've only got 2 subscribers and nothing to show for it. Well, you just don't have enough content, and there's nothing for them to suggest to you other stuff. So this is why I have so much assets. They're able to continue to suggest more of my stuff and more of my stuff and more of my stuff. And then there's bleed over. What ends up happening is they go, okay, so say for instance, Steve goes and he releases a Kindle Direct Publishing tutorial and he gets done with his video. They're going to suggest it over to mine because there's a little bit of an overlap between the two of those. And guess what ends up happening? People binge watch my content. It becomes almost this circular loop. I know that there's a number of channels, and I'm not going to name names at this point, but I get a lot of suggested traffic from them. They indirectly send me, their followers, and that's kind of nice. So watch time. Absolutely. If you aren't winning at this game, if you're finding on YouTube, you're like, after the first year, you're not monetized in the YouTube partner program. First of all, don't beat yourself up if you're not in the YPP. It's not a big deal. Okay. You can monetize many other ways, but it is a good milestone to have 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 watch time hours in the course of a year. But if you're not getting to that point within a reasonable amount of time, then chances are likely you got to take a step back and you got to ask yourself, are people watching my content, actually staying and watching the content? The next thing is Am I being consistent in delivering value to my viewers? And this is with anything, whether you're running a children's channel, a vlog, you're doing a podcast, all of it. Because I've been able to do this on 2 different channels, and I'm getting ready to do it on a 3rd channel this year. It is very, very possible. So if you're finding you're spinning your wheels and you're like, I don't understand, I haven't gotten to the YouTube Partner Program, no one's watching my videos, you got to take a step back. You need to start to analyze. And here's one of the things that I always think about. You are a boss of your business. You are the CEO when you go ahead and decide you're going to publish videos on YouTube. You also need to treat each one of your assets like your employees. And you need to look at it from an unbiased viewpoint. And you look at it and go, okay, I need to evaluate how you're performing this year or this past week or the last 24 hours. And you need to be very critical and figure out, okay, why aren't people staying on for very long? And that's the nice thing is the analytics are second to none in YouTube's dashboard. I wish that Kindle Direct Publishing had the same type of analytics over inside their dashboard. But YouTube has that, and they're able to tell you when people are watching, where they're watching from, how they got to your content, where they came from, and if they're watching additional content. That's really freaking cool. So when you can start to dial in that element and understand it, here's the cool thing. Let's say you got a 5-minute video. You can go in and figure out, okay, what's the average watch time? And then let's say, for instance, you're like, your average watch time is 1 minute. Whoa. Something went wrong. You got a 5-minute video they're only watching for 1 minute. Go in, pay attention, and you're going to see this little like curve. It almost looks like a hockey stick. It'll just kind of come down. It'll just drop down suddenly. Figure out where everybody's dropping off. Go and watch that portion of your video because you might have said or done something that turned somebody off or didn't deliver and match up the value of what you ended up giving to them via the title of your video and your thumbnail, because those are your barriers of entry. If you've got a title and thumbnail that are clickable and they show up and they don't stay very long, then chances are very likely there is a mismatch between what you said in your title and what you did in your thumbnail. And they're kind of going, I'm out of here. And I'll be realistic with you. Thankfully, I've got a video editor and consultant that works with me now that we're able to look at some of these things. And he's able to pay attention to sometimes the things that are turning people off. I used to go into my videos. This is how my structure used to work. I would go in, talk about the pain point. So let's just say, for instance, would you like to learn a little bit more about Amazon KDP keywords today? Make sure you stay tuned. And it would have my bumper, my flashy bumper, which is like, just it showed my logo and a, neat little theme music type thing. And I'd come into it and I'd say, welcome to Self-Publishing with Dale. And if you'd like to learn more about self-publishing books that sell, then make sure that you hit the subscribe, turn bell notifications on so you don't miss a single one of these videos. Problem is, people were skipping because what I was seeing was you'd start out, drop, and then it would come back up after about 20 seconds. So people were automatically probably on their mobile device going, skip, 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 skip. I'm done with this guy. So we said, okay, let's cut the bumper. We cut the bumper. We saw better average watch time.
Right. I
was like, oh, cool. So we just got rid of a 3-second bumper. It's literally 3 seconds. I'm not exaggerating this. And okay, we're watching it and we're looking at it, better watch time. But then we were like, okay, we're still seeing this drop here, this sudden drop. Okay, people are tired of hearing me talk about myself and subscribing. So we killed the subscribe. And instead what we did was we put visual calls to action for subscribing.
Yeah. So
that way it was just kind of showing it as I'm talking at very good points to where it's like I'm delivering a very good key point. We drop a subscribe there. Instead of saying at the very onset, like, hey, and see, this thing is a lot of YouTubers and big YouTube experts will tell you, you should definitely come in, mention your creed, give them a call to action and ask them to subscribe. But I found that it was becoming detrimental to my watch time. And here's the thing, as I had said before, you can have all the subscribers you want. You can get the likes, you can get all the comments, you can get all the shares. But until you get watch time, none of that matters because you want watch time. Subscribers are great. It's a nice little metric. Ain't gonna lie to you. There's a good reason why I'm headed to 100,000 subscribers over the next year. I mean, that's great. But if you really, really want to win big, you got to get them to watch. So I ended up clipping out. So now anymore, come in. I say it in the video. You want to learn more about, Amazon KDP keywords? Stay tuned to today's video. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dale here. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Amazon KDP keywords. I go right into it. So that way people aren't going and skipping. And if they tried skipping, they're going to have to backtrack, and I get more watch time because they backtrack and watch even more. So that was really something. It's a learning process. And you can see that what it takes is a willingness to be okay with having a little bit of mustard on your face, being okay with messing up just a little bit and going, okay, let's adjust this. We can do better. And I will forever be doing that. I'm going to keep trying to be better. I pay attention to comments. Like there was one period back in March 2019, for some reason or another, when I was editing my own videos, I decided I was going to start doing zoom ins and zoom outs. People were like, dude, stop zooming in. They were like, it is really annoying. And I'm like, okay.
Thanks.
You pay attention to those comments, because if someone's saying it, who else is not saying it? Who else is just, oh, this is annoying. I'm out of here. They're leaving. So pay attention sometimes to those comments, and they will tell you, they will paint a bigger picture for you. And you can kind of understand. Every now and then you're going to run into some trolls. Trolls are definitely a dime a dozen. I deal with it on a daily basis. So
you're illustrating a certain point. I think that, first of all, the fact that you had a bunch of videos up, and then after you'd done all of your fundamentals and got that going, then you were able to kind of back up and go, all right, now I'm going to evaluate all my content I've curated, my library of content. What process can I put in place to up the quality and improve the performance of this content? But had you focused on that at the very beginning, I think it would have been a big barrier, and it really distracted you.
It probably would have. It would have. Back then, all I thought of was just answering a video really quick. And it was so funny. I purposely named the channel Self-Publishing with Dale L. Roberts, because I took the knowledge that I had from Amazon of selecting a keyword so you could be more discoverable. I knew my name as Dale L. Roberts was already kind of taken by the whole fitness thing. So I was like, let's go ahead and just put self-publishing with. Mm-hmm. And beyond that, though, all I did was, it was very dry, very boring stuff. I was like, hello, and self. I think even like my first video was, I was wearing a bright neon green cutoff shirt. It was poorly lit. My camera was on a laptop camera, and I'm looking down, like lording over it. By the way, don't ever lord over your camera. Try to get it at eye level or a little bit above eye level, like kind of like what you and I have right now for our videos. You never want to look down, but either way. And it also sounded like I was depressed. I was just like, this is Self-Publishing with Dale L. Roberts, and welcome to the channel. And so the nice thing is, I just wanted to answer questions really fast. I didn't think about necessarily making it good. I did have this delusions of grandeur that I thought I was going to become the next PewDiePie by simply launching that. But when I found that I was getting like 8 views, over the course of a month on a single video, I was like, okay, we got to get realistic on this one. I'm not going to become PewDiePie. But that's the thing, is don't try to get caught up. If you're getting into doing video content creation, whatever platform it might be, what I would say is embrace the perfection and imperfection. Be okay with using your cell phone, with using your laptop and lording over it. Be okay with putting out imperfect assets and adjust as you go along. And you'll see in due time, you'll start to get better. It's kind of like what you were saying, you go into the gym, it's going to be tough. You're going to be winded after the first workout. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'll never be like Peter McKinnon or Casey Neistat or Dale L. Roberts. Oh, don't say you're going to ever be like me. Please be better than me. Either way, you get the idea. But as you go in and get your reps in and you're consistent with it, you will get better in due time. There's going to be some things that honestly are second nature to me when I get ready to set up things. So for instance, when I got ready for this interview, I got ready with the intent of, okay, I know this is going to be audio, and it's also going to be a video podcast. So I made sure that my video camera was on, it was dialed in, I have my lighting, I have my mic set on, I had all that second nature. I just go click, 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 and it's on. Whereas somebody new to this would be like, what where do I plug? Where I just don't, just start out with what you have at your disposal. Don't worry about getting a Sony a6400 or a Shure SM7B or a light. Be okay with whatever you have. Just take the first steps forward and tweak it as you go.
Yeah. Part of the things that I really want to stress is that you need to think about there are humans on the other side of this. We're using technology, but whether it was 1,000 years ago or 1,000 years from now, there are humans with names and families and hopes and stuff. And really the essence of what you're doing is communicating something to help them, hopefully, or to connect with them or to inspire them. And getting tripped up in all the sexy technology stuff is where most of marketing goes wrong. And thinking of the SEO that you're talking about, I think it's more applicable on YouTube and KDP and Amazon. Those things there's a place for them, but it's one part. It's not the silver bullet. It's one little part that makes the whole pie taste.
It's so ancillary. I used to pay attention so much to get everything keyword optimized, and it is good. It does play a part in it, but it is the most critical part. Well, remember, the most critical part was, I told you, is watch time. That's going to be the thing. And who's going to watch it? Human beings are going to watch it. And I think Tim Schmoyer put it really good. Tim actually says, don't create videos for an algorithm. Create videos for people.
Right.
When you start to think about, I'm creating this asset for people, then it'll click. And by the way, this is I give the same advice over on Amazon KDP and self-publishing in general. Don't try to put together, like some people get a hold of me like, hey Dale, what's the most popular niche for me to get into? And I'm like, what does it matter? Like, just find something you're passionate about and do it. Like, stop worrying about gaming the system and trying to develop your business around a search engine algorithm. If this was 10 years ago, go for it. If it was 10 years ago, work for a search engine algorithm because you could game it back then. Now, nope. The search engine algorithms have become so sophisticated to this point, forget it. You are not going to be able to game the system. You're going to need to start to work for human beings because they're the ones that are going to consume it. If you're doing it for robots, then you're probably in the wrong business.
Robots bad, humans good. So that, what niche question? It reminds me of there was a point where I was like trying to figure out what business would I do. So I was just looking for a business to make money. Was it like a sandwich shop? Was it going to be this, I don't know, do pickup bed liners or something? And later I'm thinking back and I'm going, I was just looking for something to make money, not something I was good at and I would enjoy doing. And that's the same thing that you're saying with this, what niche should I be diving in? You should be attacking the niche where you soar and are in your best element kind of naturally. And this personality comes out of you and you have this energy. That's what people need.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. You said it beautifully.
So what's the one question, Dale, that people never ask you that you wished they would ask you?
Man, I guess I never think about things like that. Honestly, I get asked a lot of really out there questions. I think sometimes the issue I see is when people ask some questions, I think to myself, like, did I just become Google? Like, did I all of a sudden, like, am I the new search engine algorithm? I think Tony Robbins, and I'm gonna have to paraphrase him, once said that in order to really get the proper answers, you need to be asking the correct questions. Mm-hmm. And asking these lower tier questions, like legitimately, I'm not even kidding you, Steve. There's been times people ask me, what does KDP stand for? And I'm like, okay, and I'm at this point now anymore. Nothing shocks me into some of the things that people ask me, like, what does ISBN stand for? And I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. I'm like, I'll go ahead and answer that. the questions that should be asked are going to be something that's going to move the needle. So sometimes when people ask me, like, for instance, they say, hey, my book sales are really awful. I've tried everything that you've told me to do. What should I do? And it's typically, I've got to look at some of their assets and I've got to tell them the hard truth. Your book cover's ugly. You got a terrible title. I don't even know what that book description is. Like, what is this? I'm not even enticed to. In fact, I want you to pay me money for even reading it. So there comes times, like, I think some people are not as self-aware as they think they are. So I don't know necessarily that it's bad questions or horrible questions, but when you ask questions, you need to take a step back and ask, how is this going to help me actively move my business forward? That's going to be the thing. If you were, for instance, and I'm not going to call myself the Michael Jordan of self-publishing, but if you had the opportunity as a basketball player to ask Michael Jordan only one question, one question, or we can throw LeBron James in there. Don't matter. Okay. Anybody big in basketball, you've got a chance to ask him one question. Do you think you're going to ask him, what does NBA stand for? No, I'm probably going to be asking him some very high tier, question of some sort. Here's my routine. It's X, Y, and Z. What do I need to do to level this up so I can at least be a fraction as good as you were? And that right there, that's deep thinking right there. It's enough to be vulnerable to somebody to where you can get active feedback and move your business upward.
Yeah. So I was wanting you to look at my book. I'm teasing. So
your book looks great. Golden Toilet. By the way, we're going to go ahead and shamelessly plug that right there. Golden Toilet. Go pick it up.
Excellent. I'll send a check later, Dale. Dale, the KDP, I think when you said you could SEO the heck out of KDP or YouTube, but if your content is not valuable, if you haven't really got a great title and some good stuff to really, it's not going to help that much. Right. You're getting ready to launch a new book or publish a new book.
I am, yeah.
Tell us about where you're going in the future and tell us about this book that you mentioned.
I'm so glad that you mentioned it. Actually, I am launching a book called Amazon Keywords for Books. So oddly enough, I'm talking about keywords in this particular one. And as far as my launch sequence goes, I'm very fortunate that I have attention. This is really nice between the YouTube channel, Twitch, Instagram, LinkedIn, a very deep email list, Facebook groups, 4,000 members deep that are very, very active. So I'm able to leverage that at least. But there's other practices that I'm also going to put into play. So for instance, I'm not just going to go and press publish. If you just go and you press publish and pray and you're wondering why you're not getting any success, it's because you didn't go into it with a strategy. My strategy was, how can I leverage my YouTube channel to build awareness of my book? That was the very first thing I thought of. I was like, okay, why don't I start hyping this on my channel? Mm-hmm. So I started telling people in various videos and live videos that I was working on this. Then I wrote the book on my channel in a 11-hour writing sprint. Yes, 11 hours, wrote 20,000 words in front of a live audience. Because why? Well, first of all, hopefully to have people inspired and work along with me. And the next thing was to get it to where I was staying accountable and I would get it done. And next thing is building the hype.
Tell me more about that. You wrote the book in front of your audience.
Yep. It's what's called a write-in or writing sprint. And what ends up happening is you go onto YouTube, you just turn it on live. And what I did was I created what's called a Pomodoro method, which is essentially you're going 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off for 4 sets. And then you take 15 minutes off, rinse and repeat. And I would just, it's so boring. If you go in there, it seems like it's performance art. You'll see a timer and you might see some type of a message, but it's like this right here. I'm looking down and I'm just kind of just typing away, and people they write along. And then when the timer goes off, they hear that alarm go off and they stop. And it's kind of cool because then you can kind of talk. And
so they write along with you writing their own book.
Right along with you. Yes.
So
Some
like,
people were doing other things. Like there was an artist that was tuning in. They were doing their artwork while I was doing this. So they were doing art sprints along with me.
what kind of crazy stuff is that? It sounds like those where they listen to people eat an apple or something.
ASMR. Yes, yes. You know, I thought it was insane when I originally saw it. I saw some, author tubers, as they call them. They're authors that do YouTube type stuff. And at any rate, I saw them doing it and I was like, oh my gosh, there's 200 people watching them stare at a screen.
Yeah.
But it was the principle of sitting down of let me work along, which by the way, that's another searchable thing is work along. And you would just work along in those sprints. And every now and then they would just, they'd stop, they would kind of stretch, they would talk. Hey, how are you doing on your work? I had, I think, nearly 60 concurrent viewers while I was doing that at one point, and it dropped to about 40 at another point. And within 24 hours, I had well over 1,000 views because remember, watch time is king.
Yeah.
So people were watching this. And the funny thing is, people watched the replay to work along because the timer was already there. So they just went ahead. Okay. I think that video is getting nearly like 2,000 views. So that was one of the ways that I was able to build hype behind this, get the manuscript done. And here we go. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the full, almost the full strategy here. What I ended up doing was I got a hold of a couple contacts that I have and a couple of them to do the interior for me. Okay. And they've been sponsors for the channel or close friends of mine. So guess what? I just promote their brands while they're doing the interior formatting for me. And it's really good, by the way. I cannot wait for everybody to see it. I got a hold of Fiverr, got them on the phone because they've been a sponsor of mine. They've been so good with me. And I said, I got an idea. I want to do a video where I hire 5 of your cover designers for one book cover. Mm-hmm. And they were like, love it. How much do you want? And I just told them how much I needed for credits. And you're going to have to stay tuned for that video. We're going to say this, that they gave me a lot of money to make it work. And the nice thing is so as soon as that's done, I'm going to end up doing 2 videos in this series. I'm going to do a how to write a book in 24 hours challenge to where I chronicle the whole situation, how I laid everything out. And then in the end of the video, I've already told everybody how I do it. Now, would you like to have a copy of this 100% free? Well, I'm doing an advanced reader copy team. So I'm going to send them over to a landing page link to where they download it in exchange for their email to where they'll be able to get updated on various releases and they will leave a review when it launches. We go over into the cover video, rinse and repeat. Here's the beautiful thing is, in order to get the engagement on that video, obviously everybody's going to want to see all 5 covers for crying out loud. I'm going to get the audience to vote for the actual cover I'm going to put on there. So I'm going to have 5 covers. I'm going to help, tweak them with all the designers and everything else like that. But the audience is going to vote between, is it going to be the cheap cover design or is it going to be the expensive cover design? So you can see how much fun this is. And again, I'm able to plug a call to action to join the advanced reader copy team. Pretty neat, right? So we're building up the ARC team so that when I get ready to launch the book, I have reviewers on tap, ready to go. Not to mention the fact that I'm already just talking with my wife last night, and she's in fiction publishing. And, I talk with her about how she's building out her list and how she gets advanced reader copy team put together. So I'm looking at various places like BookFunnel, BookSprout, and Story Origin to bring in even more people outside of my realm of quote unquote influence, outside of YouTube. The people that haven't heard of me, I want to bring them in to get an advanced reader copy. And ultimately what's going to end up happening is when this launches, I'm going to have a large enough advanced reader copy team that is going to have a ton of social proof and reviews ahead of time. So when it does launch, it builds relevance over on Amazon's platform and gets it to where there's social proof ready to rock and roll. That is scratching the surface of what I'm going to end up doing. Like, for instance, I have another one put into play that I have editorial reviews already ready to go. Like, I got to send off the copy to them. I'll get the editorial review ready. So yeah, it's a juggling act. And tomorrow I'm going into the recording studios to record the audiobook as well. Yeah. So excited about all this stuff. Yes, absolutely. So you can see it's be very deliberate about what you're doing in your business, folks. Have a strategy. Don't just publish and pray for the best, because if you just publish and pray, whatever whatever it is, think about publish. It could be whatever your work is going to be. If you just pray for the best, you're not going to get anywhere fast.
That's worth the whole conversation right there, Dale. That's what they call the black swan. That's the question that I wanted an answer to that I didn't know how to ask. What is the plan for your new book? And then what'd you do? It's called Open the Kimono, folks. That was excellent. There's a lot of people that are going to listen to that and get jacked up for all the ideas that you had in there. Very original, very creative, very community oriented. Excellent.
Yeah, it's so important. When I look at the whole self-publishing with Dale brand, there's a team now. Officially, as of today, I have 4 people on my team, but it's not just my team anymore. So it seems like very narcissistic that my name is on it. I sometimes cringe. I'm like, oh God. But I also think of it as a brand. But I also think about it as a community and people that are working with me. And when you can bring your community into this and make it a community effort, people feel more invested, and they're going to want to see this succeed, because this is their project. This is their thing that they're invested in. And that's why I wanted to bring in these 35,000 subscribers, these 4,000 Facebook members, and also bringing in other people. And I'm super, super fortunate to be the position that I am, that I have an amazing tribe of people that surround me and support me and cheerlead me all the way. And I believe that this book that's going to be released, even though it took 11 hours to write, it did take hours to outline, by the way. That was one part we skipped over. Right. That took days of me outlining ahead of time, so I was able to write it. And then let's add in the 3 rounds of edits that were like pulling teeth. Like I literally at this point, like just pull out one of my bicuspids. I don't care. I would rather just do that. And by the way, I love my teeth, so there's no way you can get me part ways with it. But in this instance, I don't want to go through the editing process again, because it was brutal with a capital B.
You're a great guest, Dale. This has been a fun conversation. I really appreciate you being on here. I think folks are going to get a lot of value out of that, and they need to know you. That's kind of cool. You're the guy at the party that I was like, I'm happy to, hey, come here. I want you to meet Dale. He's got all this cool stuff, and he's walked the walk. You'll enjoy hanging out with him.
Yeah, it's if you're at a party and you're at a cocktail party or somewhere, cocktail party most importantly, you're going to have to just drop the whole like facade. You're going to have to come out. You have to enter the conversation. Bro, I got a guy you got to meet right over here. Yeah. He's wild. Just brace yourself. Are you wearing your Depends? You're not wearing your Depends? Well, screw that tux, because he's going to make you soil yourself.
Dale, thanks for being on the ROI Online Podcast. Where can people connect with you? We have to ask that question. Just give us we only have a few more minutes, so you have a lot of platforms, but give us the top ones.
I'm going to give you one, and I'm going to make it super, super simple. Selfpublishingwithdale.com. So just think self-publishing with Dale, like chippendale.com.
Chip and Dale. That's a great, ties a bow on fitness, man. He probably wanted to start off being a dancer. Dale, thanks for being on the ROI Online Podcast.
Thank you, Steve.
That's a wrap.